Welcome to the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi After the Show podcast. Be a part of it with us, too. You can email us. You can hit us up on our socials to respond. Or if you're listening on the iHeartRadio app, click the red talkback mic button. Sometimes the most fun thing is when you will trip across something like a TV show, unexpected entertainment, whether it's a TV show or a radio station, something that you weren't planning on just because you don't have anything else going on. You're just kind of scanning around,
Love it.
Whatever.
Spontaneity.
And you can do that. The same thing with podcast, and that's actually what I wasn't intending on stumbling across any podcast. But Jodi, you probably already know that Conan O'Brien has the Conan Needs a Friend podcast, right? It's been around for a couple of years now. Mm-hmm. I don't remember if he started that during COVID or if he started that before COVID after he transitioned out of TV. But anyway, it's popular, and I've never really
fantastic.
I've never really stayed glued to any one episode as much as I love Conan. But last night I just happened to be in the car, and so I stumbled across an interview that he's doing with Willie Nelson. Now, I don't really know when this one was done. When you look on the website, they say this was a 2020 interview when the book came out. It sounded a little newer to me than that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But it doesn't really matter because the stories are what were really just incredible, because you're listening to this living legend. Mm-hmm. And Sam, I know you're a massive Willie fan too.
Yeah.
It is, because Willie is just kind of in his own league icon because of his age and the fact that he's still doing what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And I saw, or maybe you mentioned this in music news, that he's already he's booked his date to do whatever the festival he does in Austin in the July 4th concert that he does.
Yeah.
And he's still going to get up and he's going to play. And he's 91 years old.
And he's doing that tour again this summer with Bob Dylan and a couple other bands.
Right. And
why would he stop, though?
Yeah.
Why? There's no reason. If he can do it,
it's
that's living your life no
Yeah.
matter what your age, because something could happen to him, and he knows that any day, and he would be stuck at home, in bed or something like that, and he doesn't want that. So he's just living to the fullest.
Yeah.
Just good.
Well, there are just a number of different places Conan went with him. One of them was that, is there a star celebrity that you wish that you had been able to meet over the years? He said it was Hank Williams, because Hank Williams was 29, whatever, when he passed away. Yeah. And he never met him. Mm-hmm. I think he said that he worked with, was it Bob Wills maybe at one point? Mm. That isn't he like an older, country?
Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. It's Texas Swing.
And way back though, right?
This is way back.
Right. Okay. So he did. I think he might have done a studio session, with Bob Wills too. And then asking about his influences. His influences weren't just country. His biggest influence on his vocals and the way he phrases and the way he sings is Frank Sinatra.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah. He said that he loved the way that, because Frank could work around the beat of a song where you never know whether he's going to be slightly ahead or slightly behind or right on or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, when you listen to Willie's songs, Willie does have Frank phrasing.
Yeah.
Willie goes at his own pace and the music is just there. You know? It's the same way Frank did it.
Yeah.
I've never made that connection. There was a lot of Willie being played when I was growing up in the house, but it's not something that I do like Willie Nelson, but I never was the fan that you are, Sam, or the fan that my parents were.
Yeah.
They would go see him. They would get in the car and go for a weekend and go see him in concert anytime they could. And my mom would wear the Willie shirt all the time, but I never picked up on any of that.
Yeah,
because I wasn't into it.
Yeah, it's crazy because to be 91, multiple generations have been able to enjoy his music and still can right now. And the other story that I heard, because I remember the day that I found out he wrote the big classic Patsy Cline song, Crazy, which is still the biggest jukebox song of all time, and I guess it's because they don't have jukeboxes anymore. That record's not going to be beaten, But there was a time and place where almost every jukebox in America, even through the 80s or whatever, had Patsy Cline "Crazy" as
and it was played.
And Willie Nelson wrote that song.
I feel like I've heard the Willie version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done a version.
Okay, yeah.
The story that he told is a story I've never heard about, that song, which he called that his mailbox money song because that was his first big. He was a struggling artist in Nashville, wrote that song that allowed him to then be able to spend time writing other songs. At the same time he was writing songs, I think he said he tried to do a hog farm and lost money on the hog farm, but it did a little bit better on the writing side of things. I know. Anyway, but the story behind Patsy Cline Crazy is it was Patsy Cline's husband that heard Willie playing that in the studio, and he said, Patsy's got to hear that. She's got to be the one to record this. And the only problem was it was midnight, and Patsy Cline was at home asleep while her husband and Willie are there in the studio. And he's like, no, you need to play this for her now. And Willie did not want him to go wake her up just so he could play, Crazy. And so he's at the end of the driveway in the car. Her husband goes and gets Patsy. She comes to the car, and he plays it. And she was she's like, yes, I've got to record that.
Oh, good.
Midnight. Woke up
I was going to go to another what?
Right.
How
you
dare
woke
you?
me up.
Yeah. Even Conan said, Willie, I love you, but if you came and woke me up at midnight, I would tell you to get out of here. Yeah, he used a few other little words, colorful words with that. But
that's a great story.
What's amazing about Willie, I think, and younger. And by younger, I mean probably 40 and under even, don't understand is that he's been around forever.
Yeah.
And that he had that career as a writer before he was Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
I mean, he wrote so many songs way back then, and he was, trying to break into the business. And you ever see the pictures of Willie back in the day?
Some.
Slick hair.
Yeah, he
clean
looked like
cut.
that 1950s.
Doesn't look anything like Willie now.
Right.
It's just like he's been around forever.
And what's so funny about you just said that image of him I can't conjure that image of him because that's not the image I have of him. And that was what's so cool is that he decided to just stop worrying about his image and be himself. And that's the image that we have of him. The braids, the casual, the Western.
And some of his classic albums that he put out, he did against record company wishes. It's like when he put out that Stardust album, which is one of his biggest.
Yes.
It's like, you're going to do what? I don't think so. And then boom.
Yeah, and Stardust, is if you've never heard that album, is basically what they call the American Songbook. It's of classic vocal songs that were big hits from the 40s and the 50s that he did in Willie style.
Too.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess really what brought Willie back to the scene probably was the outlaw country phase of things in the 70s when he was with Waylon Jennings. And then that transition again, the whole urban cowboy phase, again was another little spark. And he came along in the 80s, and then he did the duet with Julio Iglesias.
Yeah.
He was so big on the pop charts as a singer. You're right, Sam. It was like 20 years after he began writing hits was when he really started to hit the charts himself. But my dad absolutely, the Stardust album is one they would play, and I still have that copy of it on vinyl. Both sides, front to back, he would play, and it was really common. So, but the reason I bring it up is just to hear Willie, tell different parts of his stories, and he talks about how, it hasn't all been easy, and some of that was very public. If you remember in the 90s, late 80s or 90s, he ran into some big tax trouble and owed the federal government a lot of money. He's had a lot of legal, issues and things that he's been able to work through over the years, but he's always come out the backside, and it's just listening to him. That's what's amazing to me. It's like I can't be that casual. As much as I would love to be that casual, he makes it look like it's just been easy, and he's 91 years old now.
Well, you're also not smoking what Willie's smoking
About to say.
to make him so
You
casual.
can't be that casual. Well, you could be that casual, but you're not doing those things.
Yeah.
I have one Willie Nelson story, and I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but it is a true story. Years ago, when we were living in the first house that we bought together, Murphy, which is the one near the public golf course.
Yeah.
I was going home from work one afternoon, and I'm sitting at the red light, and this golf course goes across the streets, and there are golf carts that go across the street when you're at the red light.
Right.
And I'm just sitting there minding my own business. I'm tired. I might have even been pregnant with our first kid, Taylor. And in a golf cart going right in front of me, and I swear it's Willie Nelson. And I'm like, am I seeing things? And I didn't say anything about it. And the next day, we found out that Willie Nelson was in town filming
he's
a movie
a golfer.
or something like that. And I'm like, he was at the golf course that's right across the street from our house. I knew I had seen him. And then I felt like by the time I tell that story that nobody's going to believe me because it was a day ago, But I know that I saw him.
That's
it was
cool.
funny.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, right in front of me.
Wish we could have walked. If I'd have
Willie
seen,
Nelson.
I wish I could have seen him playing. I would have walked across the street and said hello to him.
I'm telling you, he was not dressed like Tiger Woods. He had the braid and he was casual as could be.
Yeah. Sam, I'll have to share the link of that podcast, with you, and we can, share it here also, on the Team Coco. It's just a good moment with Willie. And if you have never heard of or know anything about Willie Nelson, this might be a really cool little introduction because it's laid back. Realize also, I guess I should say, because it's a podcast, there are, there's language, right? Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Be aware of that if you have kids listening to it. But it was great, and it was a really fun escape to listen to Willie tell his stories with Conan.
Missed any part of the show? Get it all on the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi podcast.